It was awesome. I've had a great time. Being a nominee, we were able to walk on the section of the red carpet where all the stars are. And this is my second nomination. So the first time I sort of, I learned what you're supposed to do and I was a kid in the candy store the first time. This time I actually had a little bit more of a realization of what an honor and how amazing it is to be nominated. And I really absorbed it. I really just soaked it in, enjoyed the full month of a nominee before the pinnacle or before the finale. Um, and, walking on the red carpet, hanging out with the stars is very cool. Seeing people that you know, seeing your peers also, walking into the Kodak Theater with all these just heavy hitters, and it was funny because we had these really great seats, and I was in the room, and after we had lost the nomination or we lost the award, um, I went out and just went to the restroom, got a drink, and waited a little bit to go back into the room. Once you leave, you have to wait a full 20 minutes or whatever till the first commercial break. And there's a few people waiting in line, and I'm hanging out with them. Michelle Williams or some movie star girls are over here and over there, and I'm just kind of hanging out. And then Donald Trump walks in front of me, and he takes cuts, and he's with his wife, and he just kind of like walked up in front of me, and I just want to say, hey, there's a line here, but I didn't, because it was Donald Trump, and I always say, hey Donald, how you doing? But it's one of those like really great kind of surreal moments that it's hard to describe, but being there was a real thrill and a real honor. I'll admit it's not easy, but one thing that I've got to say, and I see in some people, and I see in some young people that are coming up and trying to do what we do and want to get into something, either whether it's editing, mixing, just any kind of in the sound business, is you need to have that motivation. I mean, you really have to be motivated to do it. You can sit there and talk about, well, I'd like to do it, but I mean, you have to be motivated and you have to sacrifice. You have to sacrifice your time. And after doing it for so many years, I realized how important it is to, I hate to sit there and say it, but you have to put everything else on hold if you really want to do it. And it's tough on families. It's always been tough on families. In my earlier years when I was working crazy, crazy, crazy hours, it was tough on my family, but I was, knock on wood, I was able to survive all that. But I realized that, now it's, if anybody asks anything of you, your answer has to be yes, with no hesitation. And there's, no is not a word in our vocabulary. We just have to be willing to do anything that a director, a producer, an editor, a sound editor, anybody asks you to do something, you have to be willing to just bend over backwards and really feel it, not just sort of go through it half-heartedly. You need to own it, and you need to have that motivation behind you just to just get it to even just to make it happen. Sound is important to, I think, every movie story. It's just one of those things that if you don't have the correct soundtrack for your film, you've cheated yourself. I mean, you've got now a boring movie that's quiet and empty and dull. And I mean, you need a nice, lush, full soundtrack. If it's just a dialogue movie, you want to have backgrounds that are wrapped around you, again, just to give yourself that theater going experience, and to just have sound going to help move the story. If something's going to be, if something's going to drag for a moment, you want to have just, even if it's just some offstage traffic or air or birds or something subtle, you just want to have some nice airs, some audio going. You don't want to, you need to have, sound is very, very important for any movie. Going back to Salt, again, Salt was one of those movies that sort of just had this, it propelled, and the score was just helpful, and the sound effects and the dialogue was just, it was one of one of my favorite dialogue mixing experiences. That Philip, the director, loved to pan the dialogue. Which is, panning dialogue is a very scary thing, because you could take somebody out. You could ruin someone's movie-going experience with all of a sudden dialogue's coming out of a different speaker. Someone's listening to what's coming out of the center, and then all of a sudden it's coming out of here. So it has to be very subtle, and you have to be very smooth with your panning. And we were panning dialogue all over the place, and we had television programs going on all the time in the CIA bunkers, and in the White House there's all the, you know, group wallas going on, and all that type of stuff helps tell the story, helps the momentum of a movie. And Salt, I'd say, is one of my favorite storytelling sound films.